Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Marquise, and welcome back to It's More Than Just Dating. On this podcast, we're bridging the gap between the journey of dating and singleness into the destination of marriage. That is our mission. That is our goal to be able to create, understanding and wisdom of that in between stage to marry the two. So it's going to be amazing what we're talking about today. Today teaser, to be honest, what we're going to be diving into is something really key. Today we'll be talking about the understanding of value, also learning how to be secure in your singleness. I think that's a really big thing that a lot of people struggle with, is being secure in their singleness. They really just desire to instantly be in a relationship or be married. And so because they rush, I think there's a lot of things that they rush into and it does not work out for them. Also, we're going to talk about the pressures that may come from other people pushing timelines on when you're supposed to get married. I think we've all heard this. We've all seen how so many people, they push things on us on you should be married by this time, and it will make you make horrible decisions. So we'll talk a lot about that today. I know you guys are seeing these two amazing people right here. It's so funny. Like this podcast, I'm definitely gonna be laughing. I have my brother Marty and his amazing, beautiful wife Jade. They are amazing. They have been, to be honest, a mentor for me just in my life, looking at how they raise their kids, how they do budgets and finance, like all of this stuff. Like I look at it, I'm like, man, I need to grow to that, the patience that they have, just their relationship. To be honest, y'all really have like one of the best relationships. And I'm not saying this on camera just to say it on camera. Like I always talk about y'all marriage because like a lot of people, they talk about their marriages and how it's, kind of a little funky. And I'm like, man, when I look at my brother and my sister marriage, I'm like, I don't see that. Like, and y'all been married for 8 years or going on 9 years?
Going on 9.
Going on 9 years. Yeah. So like just to see all of, 9 years, going on 9 years of just how y'all have been able to work together as a team, that's been so key in just everything. I think it's been amazing. But nevertheless, can you tell people, just pretty much about y'all journey, who y'all are?
I'll let you go first, baby.
Okay, so I am Jade. Me and Marty, as Keith was saying, we are going on 9 years of marriage. This has definitely been a journey, and it's been fun. It's challenges up and down, but it's been amazing. And just understanding, like how Keith was saying, about our value played a huge part in just our saying yes to each other just before God and our marriage. We have 4 children, 4 daughters. So yeah, that's a blessing. And right now, like the Lord is just showing me just how I value myself and how I value my marriage is going to play a strong impact on my parenting and the things I want to instill in my daughters. So yeah, I'm just momming it right now and having fun during this process. So,
yeah.
Yeah, sweet mama.
I didn't even know your voice was that deep. Hey, you see his voice getting talking about sweet mama.
Yeah,
That boy, he got a filter on.
My baby, But no, I don't know. You make me go wild. I was like, but no, my name is Marty. I'm Marquis' brother, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm into real estate, and I have an AV company with my business partner, Lance, that we do custom integration for commercial and residential. And I love marriage. My heart is the team. All my decisions is thinking about my wife and the children, and the great fourth quarter generation. We'll talk about that on another time. But yeah, that's basically me.
So listen, didn't y'all get married straight from friendship to marriage?
Oh yeah,
it was no
very
dating.
Unique.
It was no dating, right? It was like friends. I don't know exactly how I remember this dude Marty.
Well, I duty dated.
Well, he duty. They don't know about what duty
They
dating
gotta look at Karen. Well,
Watch another podcast.
we didn't even talk about duty dating yet. Well,
spoiler.
look at that boy messing it up.
Messing it up.
But no, it was so funny. I remember the day I'm at the front door. We at our parents' house, and this dude like, "Yo, Keith, bro, I gotta talk to you about something." I'm like, "All right, cool. What's up?" He like, "What would you say if I married Jade?" I'm like, "Well, if you feel like that's the one for you, I'm with you." And he was like, "All right, cool. So he's like, I gotta show you something. I'm like, all right, what this dude gotta show me? This dude put a ring out. I'm like, oh dang, that's what's up. So, in my head, I'm like, okay, cool. It's gonna probably be a couple weeks, couple months, something. That boy said, yeah, we getting married this weekend. I said, what? I said, goodness gracious. So I think that that's like really dope. And that's why I say it's weird because y'all went from being friends to married. And when I look at y'all marriage, it's beautiful. And like, it kind of make me say, dang, like, is that the way? Or, what? But I do value that. I think that was pretty unique. I don't think a lot of people have that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Teamwork make the dream work. My mindset was, let's start building together young and go from there. So I think, we'll talk about it in the future, but the vision that we have about marriage is really teamwork. It's not infatuation, like how you make me feel, but more so what's the common goal that we want to be able to accomplish and what's the action steps we need to do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I see it. Come on now. Check your heart, Keys. Okay, cool. So we're going to start with talking about the value word, right? And I kind of just really want us to kind of just discuss, like, when you hear the word value, what comes to your mind? What are you even thinking about when someone says value? Like, what comes to your mind when you hear that?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is like an exchange. Something that has value has the ability to be exchanged for something that has worth. Another word or adjective would be worth. So when I hear value, I think something with worth that has the ability to exchange for something that has value as well in a different form or something like that.
Good.
Yeah, so when I hear the word value, the first thing that come to mind is treasure. And then my mind starts to go to another place, and it made me think about the scripture in Matthew 13 that talks about the man came across a field and found the treasure. Then with great joy, he went to go sell everything he had and bought that field where the treasure was. And it's like, not to make it all scripture, but I'm like, man, that's just the first thing that came to mind. Like, my value is a treasure that is, like, I have so much value, or what I value, or just value is so important that with joy, I'm selling everything I have. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
So that's how you know, like, the cost or the worth of that treasure is so much better than everything that I already owned and possessed. That I'm worth to just give it. It's worth to just give it all up. So yeah.
That's good. No, the first thing that popped into my head when I'm thinking about value, mine is pretty simple. Is worth.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking of worth, like when someone is talking, I just hear value. I'm like, I'm always thinking optimistic on the good side. Like, oh, it must have some good worth to it, right? I guess, like, I never think about something of low value when someone says value, like, oh yeah, that's good value or bad. I don't know. I just, when I hear value, I always think of something of good worth. So
Yeah.
that's the thing that pretty much pop into my head.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking, at home just about this word value so much. Like, this has been like really something really big in our family that we've been talking about a whole lot. Value. And so what I would want to ask you is, what are some things that you've noticed, right, when it comes to people not knowing their value? Right. What's something that you notice, like, even with the dating, who they date, who they may talk to? What's some things you notice that people that don't know their value, what's going on in their life? What that looks like from what you've seen?
Man, that's good. We were talking about this last night, and when I was just kind of chewing on it today, I was thinking, like, I was in toxic relationships because I didn't have the proper evaluation of my value. And I think that's really key, because if I would have had the proper, like, vision of my value, then it's certain things I probably wouldn't have, subjected myself to. So that's kind of like something I'm kind of talking about, or thinking about.
Yeah, with me, I would say just over the years, like, when I've noticed, like, when you don't know your value, even in my own self, you play, or you're very, you compromise a lot of stuff of who you are.
Yeah.
And you live a life that's very risky. And you just going and going and going, and then you wake up and just like, wait a minute, I did what? Wait a minute, how did my life get here? It's like you've just been going so much, not having a standard, or just how Marty said, evaluations of just who you are, that you found yourself in compromising positions that kind of made you live a risky life. So
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like, one of the things I definitely been noticing is people just get into relationships that is just not healthy. And I feel like they know it's not even healthy for them. But it's just kind of like they don't really have anything to understand how to gauge their value. So because of that, because they don't even really, I feel like they struggle with being secure in that value of whatever that they may believe of themselves, right? They may believe something good of themselves, but in the blink of an eye, you also got that negative thought coming, right? Destroying that good thought that you thought of yourself. And so I do see people have bad friendships, have bad relationships, and they'll go the distance too. Like, man, they'll go the distance until the other person end up like, yo, I just got to end this. So, that's something that I've really noticed.
Yeah.
Go the distance just to say we went the distance. Sometimes it's just like, man, we got 30 years in this, but you compromise who you are. You lived a risky life just to say you went the distance.
Yeah, nah, I ain't gonna even lie. I can't go the distance for 30 years feeling like that.
No, and I think also it kind of shows you that when you don't know your value, you don't understand the boundaries, because that's something that, you talked about in some of the previous episodes, that it's hard to establish a boundary when you don't understand your value, because value also has a cost associated.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I willing to pay?
Yeah.
And when you know that you got a 24 karat gold and somebody trying to exchange copper, you like, that ain't gonna fly.
I'm good on that, bro.
Yeah.
You can keep that.
But if you don't even understand what you exchanging, you just giving away gold to something that is not of equal value. And I think that's real key, because when you have two people that understand their value, there's a cost associated by getting those jewels. So you start actually being in a relationship with friends, spouses that really is looking to grow, because they know the price they have to pay to actually acquire that value.
Yeah.
So I think that's real key.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's good. So Jade, I would love for you to answer this. So one of the things that I've heard a lot about is women that feel that they don't have value because they don't have a spouse.
Yeah. That's something just over the years, even within myself, like, it's just like you're measuring your value based on if you get a man. And it's like your value is decreased because you're not married yet, or when are you getting married, or when are you going to have children, or all this other stuff. But I think one of the biggest things is being secure in who you are and the season that you're in, and knowing that that person, like, who gives you that value? Does the person add that value to you, or did you already have it? And one of the things I had to know within myself is that I have value. No other person can define my value. I can't have because if you're always looking for your value to be determined based on what someone else says, then you will always be in an unstable position, because you're like, oh, well, he said this and he said that. And it's just like, but then he stopped saying that. So does it mean it's diminished? And no, it's not really. And so one thing I had to realize within myself is that I have value, and it's not that person who defines my value. And I had to look for the source of it. And for me, for my journey, it was God. He was the one who cleaned me up. He was the one who dressed me up. He was the one who loved me despite of it all. He was the one who said yes to me. He was the one who chose me despite of how I'm like, oh, I don't like how my head too big, or, because we have different insecurities within ourselves, but yet somebody can look beyond that and still say that you are valuable. So for me, I would say that for the woman that's struggling with knowing their value because the lack of having a man, I think you have to go back to the source of, like, who determines my value? And is it based of a guy who gonna like me today and not like me tomorrow?
Yeah.
Then you need to let it go.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. I like your big head.
Oh my God.
No, I'll say that because you said that your value was established by God, and I think that is real key, because I believe I have the lens of the Father towards you,
Yeah.
because what other people may think is a flaw, I think of it as, man, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's real key to understand from our perspective,
Yeah.
that having Christ as your center and lens, it really helps out a lot, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like your eyes is filtered through his.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like
So
how
I could see you I could see
Yeah.
your value properly outside of, you know,
the standard of the world
yeah,
or the standard of
standard
through
of something else,
of
another
something
lens.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Times 20. And I want to add to that. I want to add, pretty much where y'all talking about where y'all get y'all value from. And, to be honest, I want to agree with y'all. And one of the important things that I've learned, right, about getting value from God, right, Christ, for me personally, is this. So the way that he view me doesn't change based on how terrible or how good that I'm doing. I am, who he's created me to be.
Yeah.
And so now I have this thing it's a truth, it's a universal truth. It does not change based off of, the season that I'm in. It's just, that's the truth of who he's created me to be. And so for me, what's empowered me to live a life that I live now, of freedom, of joy, is now because, like, I believe, right, what he said,
Yeah.
and who he said that I am. Now those thoughts, right, those thoughts that will come to try to tear down that way that you view yourself, it can't tear down who God created me to be. And I've learned that the dangerous thing was when I was trying to find value and determine my own value. And the struggle of that is, okay, with one breath, I'm like, man, you're an amazing dude, good leader, this, that, and the third. And then, those thoughts will come and be like, man, you remember you did that? Like, bro, you terrible. So in that same breath, what I defined myself as was tore down right by the same thought, just with the same breath. So I'll definitely encourage people, man, you got to definitely, find your value by God, the creator, the one that created you. And from there, you can be so secure, which, to be honest, it actually goes into our next point on how to be secure in your singleness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll definitely head this on since
You single.
I'm single, right? I'm single. So for me, my journey has been it's been an interesting journey. A lot of people, may not know, or some people do know, I was once engaged, and I ended up ending the engagement due to I began to understand my value. And it wasn't nothing against that person, but I understood the vision and where I needed to go. And so I thought it would be selfish for me to drag someone along a journey, and they were going in a different path. We had different paths, different visions. And so now where I'm at, right, I'm in this place of singleness. And of course, people like, you should have did that, or do you got somebody now? Like, they just, this is the pressures, single people, that you hear from so many people. Oh, you should marry that person. They love God. They good. Like, no, I'm not. But I'll say the way that I've been secure is, for one, I know my value. For two, I have purpose for my life, right? So now I'm operating in my purpose, and that is the fulfillment, right? To walk in the purpose that God has created for you. So for me, yeah, do I desire to be married? Of course, but I'm so secure also in my singleness that it doesn't feel like I'm lacking anything or that I'm missing anything, because I have that, I properly value myself, but I understand my purpose and I'm operating in purpose. And so it's a beautiful thing, because I'm not pressured to say I have to go marry the first person that I feel is right. Like, no, I'm totally cool. Like, I'll get to know someone, and if it grow to be that, awesome. But if not, I'm so cool in my singleness because I'm impacting people's lives, right? I'm doing what I was called to do. And so I think for anybody that's struggling in your singleness on, enjoying that, I think you need to take a step back, find out who you are, find out what your purpose is, what God has called you to do. And as you start to operate in that, you will start to feel fulfilled, right? Because what you'll be doing is you'll be doing what you was actually created to do, whether you were single or in a marriage.
Yeah.
So operating, I'm not married yet, but I would imagine that operating in your purpose, leading into marriage,
Oh, man.
the bridge like that would do, like, y'all
It's a game
both were
changer.
operating in y'all purposes before y'all was married. So
Oh, yeah.
how was that when y'all said, let's bridge this? You working it, you operating in purpose,
Yeah.
we know our value. Let's bridge this. Like what came from that?
That was key. That was extremely key. That you have people say, my better half. We came whole. We was committed to knowing what we supposed to be doing, right? And as a man, as a husband or a leader, is real key to understand the work you called to do. Because if you called to have a helpmate, but you don't know the work you're supposed to be doing, well, it's like,
What can she help you in?
what can she help me in?
Yeah.
And that's where frustration comes.
Yeah.
That's where irritation comes, because as a man, when your spouse is asking you like, hey, what are we supposed to be doing? And you're like, I don't know. It kind of does cause some frustration. But I would say that when you are secure in your singleness and you're doing the will of God, and you're operating in purpose and things like that, it makes it so easy to actually choose the right person. And I'm gonna say this, I know it's kind of like off script, because I had a conversation that was saying it's like, the check box, right? That if the person just, love God and is attractive, that's the one you should go with. And I had that situation where it was a young lady who loved God, ran, amazing for the king, and was attractive, but I didn't choose her because I understood the work that I was supposed to do. And she wasn't the helpmate. It was Jade that was to help me protect my vital organs in the areas that I needed to go and to do the will of the Father. And so it's like, that's so key to focus on what am I called to do, so that when I run and look to the side, I can actually know this is the person just to help advance the purpose together. So I think that's real key, that even for women, I believe, well, Jay, you can kind of talk about that, but I think it was key for her to kind of explore that too. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, so like everybody is saying, just being really secure in your singleness. Like, you have a work to do, and sometimes we get so focused on the end goal, the future goal of marriage, that we forget and that we're in this place of no movement, no activity, nothing to even bring your spouse, your future spouse, because you've been so focused on what you don't have instead of what you do have.
You ain't even in
And
the
I'm
field.
like, you can't just like, yeah, I was going to school and then I got a car. Like, what's the work you've been doing for the kingdom? Like, and that's another story. Like, some of the purposes of marriage, one of the big ones is to advance the kingdom of God. So, but yeah, that's another video. But still, like, what are you doing for God in that stage of singleness? And I believe that people have to focus on the work that they have in their singleness, because once they come together, they have, like, to me, I feel like I'm more of a planner. I'm more of like boom, 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 boom. Like, I have this, da, 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 da. And then when me and Marty was able to bridge the gap, it's just like he can have the vision of where he's going, and I have the breakdown. I have the outline that I can help him, like, to
teamwork.
be able to accomplish whatever work that the Lord has for us, or just in our personal life of building. And so focus on your singleness and what the Lord has for you, what's already in your hands that you're supposed to do. And whenever that spouse comes, it's like you just so focused on you just walking with him, and he's like, oh shoot, a husband just came. Like, it just appears sometimes. You didn't, because you're not so focused on this man or dating this person, and it happens and stuff like that. You're dating, but you're so committed to whatever the Lord placed in your hands, and then all of a sudden, there comes that husband, or there comes that wife that's supposed to help you continue to, build a marriage with. So, yeah.
Come on now, y'all bringing fire. Shoot, man. Got to get up out of this thing. So I love everything y'all was saying. I think that's very impactful. Definitely. Obviously, I'll be rewatching this episode, taking notes as usual. I'm telling you, listen, I was told this. It's the people that took notes in school is that made it far. So take notes right now so you can make it far in your marriage, because I'm taking notes. I'm going the distance, not just to say that I went.
That's a whole nother video.
Right. All right, amazingly. So this is what I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you, what's the impact of knowing your value inside of a relationship? Like knowing your value, what's the type of impact it's going to have within a relationship? I feel like you kind of touched on it, but I feel like this would, really have us hone in directly on this.
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you take it. Yeah.
Okay, so when you ask that question, the first thing I think about is friendship. And so with relationships, friendships, and stuff like that, knowing your value, you know what type of company that you will have around you. And so me knowing my value, I know and what I value in my life and just as a person, who I want to give my attention to and who I want to be surrounded by me. And now that I have children, I'm more even watchful of what's my number, what's my high value things that I'm not going to just be around certain people. I'm not just going to, and it's not nothing against people. It's just that I'm more particular on who I choose and to be around me because I want to make sure that I'm adding value to their life by just who I am. And you add that value, like, who am I as a person? I know I love to love. I know I love to give. I know I love to feed people. I know I love to just, encourage them with, sometimes writing poems or this and that. That's just who I am as a person. And so if I bring a certain friend around, I know if they are to be in my life because of the value that I have, I know I can impact them by just encouraging them. And then same thing, it's just like I'm more mindful of my value and I know what I want to allow into my life. So I think it's just a hand-in-hand thing. It's just like when you know your value, you know what type of impact you can bring in that person's life. And whether it's something that is good or bad, you'll be able to know. So, yeah.
And to piggyback what you were saying, it helps you establish the correct boundaries, right? Because if you know that you're putting in a different level of work, investment and exchange, and you're not getting that back, then that's where frustration happens because the expectations aren't being met. Yeah. So you need to be able to set those boundaries to create the expectations that if you're in a relationship with a person, whether it's friendship or moving towards, marriage, expectations have to be set so that you can, one, hold each other accountable, but then two, you won't get frustrated because there's an equal exchange. What I was talking about, if someone keep, depositing gold in the relationship and they only getting copper back, it's only a matter of time where that relationship isn't going to like give you the best fruit. So it's okay if that person is just, exchanging copper. You know that, okay, I need to, meet them at that level. And I can't go that deep. That value, that weight isn't that heavy. And
making adjustments with your heart, with your mind, because when you have those unrealistic expectations, you can cause an offense with those people and back and forth. So, yeah.
So I want to touch on something where you keep bringing up this gold versus copper. And I love that. I love that analogy, right? And that comparison, shall I say. I do feel like people struggle with this, right? They struggle with, I'm giving gold.
Right.
I know that I'm getting copper back. But maybe if I just keep giving gold, eventually I'll get the gold back. How would you tell a person, like, how could you help a person understand, like, it's going to be those people that's all they have to offer is gold. No matter how optimistic, how hopeful that you are, you have to understand that they only have copper to give. Like, what would you say to a person that's giving gold to help them understand, like, hey, you probably want to be able to, like, see it for what it is, or, how could they gauge that?
Yeah. I like to think of the mindset for somebody to continue to give gold and think that they're going to get gold back. They must have some type vision or hope that there's a possibility or there's potential. And that's something that's really dangerous when you see potential in relationship. But if you don't see the action steps to be able to go through the process, because we know gold and copper go through a different type of process. And if they go through the same process, the results are very, very different. Yeah. So if you see that person isn't willing to go through the process of gold, then you have to make sure that you take the steps. And that's kind of helps you with that boundary. Like, hey, I can't invest that level until I see you move into that process. Because is stealing your resources from someone that does have the goal that you can build together and, go with those type responsibilities. And I like to use goal because goal is weighty. The reason why it has value is because we know the science and, the fire, but it really has weight. And we want to have weighty relationships. So what Jade was saying, we're very, mindful of who we invest our time, because we're looking for weighty relationships, because it's just not me and the other individual. With my friends, it's the same thing. I know they're going to have to impact my wife and my children, right?
Yeah.
So if you're single and you're moving in a relationship, you have to look past just you, right? So I think that's real key, and that's what helps us out, is that I'm looking for something weighty because there's a heavy cost. I have children, I have a wife, and these are the things that I value, that I want to make sure that I'm being a great example, because I want my children to make the proper steps and not get caught in this exchange of gold and copper.
That's good. Go ahead. You want to say?
I was just gonna say just a little nugget. Don't be so married to the potential of what you expect out of that person, and just face it for what it is. That's copper, and you're giving gold. And it's okay to adjust certain things in your life and how much investment, because you're gonna still end up weightless if you keep giving all your gold and all they're giving back is copper. I'm like, dang, this is very surface, very light.
Very
it
empty.
doesn't hit the floor. It doesn't do anything. And so it's okay to grieve that disappointment, and I'm not going to say let go, but in a certain way, let go and adjust them in a different way of your life. So
I like that. So is it safe to say that it wouldn't be a person as being selfish if they say, hey, I know this person is giving copper and I'm giving gold. I understand they're not willing to go through the process to be able to give gold. I have to end this. That's not being, selfish, is it? That's actually being, I would consider that as being mature.
Yes, because in a way, if you don't, you can keep enabling them to stay where they are at the copper stage.
Yeah.
You don't want to be an enabler.
Why would I go any deeper if I'm getting everything?
Yeah, if I'm getting gold and all of that, why I need to go deeper? No, and I feel you, and I think that's something that people that are single, people that are dating, or even people that are even engaged, I think you really need to say, okay, what am I giving, right, and what are they giving? And you want to find out what's that value, and also see if that person, because I like to believe, I'm not married again, but I try to educate myself on marriage. I believe one of the biggest components is willingness.
Yeah.
And I think that you're the person that you're dating or courting, or you're thinking about talking to, I think it really needs to be shown that they're willing, right, to go through that process to be able to produce that same value. And if they're not built for it,
That's okay.
it's totally okay, right?
Yeah.
Because it's someone else that's built for them on that same level where they're meant to do life at. And so I want you guys to please take that nugget, because to be honest, like this actually hit homes for me, is because I believe also as a man, right? I believe that our maturity is going to be number one in any relationship when we're talking about with a spouse or with a woman. And so it's up to us to understand the value that we're giving and the value that we're getting back, so we can properly look at the situation and say, okay, this person is only able to produce copper. It'd be very immature for me knowing that they can't produce gold, which that's what I need back, right? For me still to bring them into this with this assumption. And I feel like it's a heaviness that's put on that person that they don't deserve that.
No.
And I feel like for men, so guys, make sure that you're making mature decisions, right? Because the women are looking to you as being that leader, right? And if you're being that leader, knowing that you're bringing a woman into something that that she may not be able to carry that load of what you're putting down, I think it's very immature for guys to continue to do that. And so guys, we want to make sure that we take ownership of being mature, knowing what we're putting down, knowing what the vision is that God has given us for our family. And that's how we find that helpmate.
Yeah.
We like, this is a good helpmate for where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, I think setting the tempo is really, 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 really like key to do.
Yeah.
Because, and it's another misconception that people think that when you're in a relationship, that you just get in a relationship with no expectation. You just think, I'm just going to be friends with you, right? And I think that's cool, but that's false humility. When you're in relationship, there is an exchange that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And to be able to establish this is what I'm looking for, it doesn't have to be surface and things like that, but it needs to be some type of communication. Say, this is what I'm expecting. Is this something that you can meet me at? Is this even a reasonable request? Let's talk about this. Can I share some of my thoughts? Can I share some of my concerns? Can you actually hear what I'm saying? Can we dialogue? Can we have healthy conflict? Me and Jay have conflict, and our conflict helps build our marriage because we work through it. We don't look at opposition as, oh, dang, this is bad. We look at opposition. This is an opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity to explore, discover and develop in that area that we didn't know. And I think that we really need to realize that when we get in a relationship, it's an exchange. We just not getting in. And if you do just get in a relationship, just to get in a relationship, that's where the frustration comes, because you don't know that you have an expectation because you wasn't even honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So I think moving into relationships with friendships and even people, I think there has to be something like, established.
Yeah.
I like that. That was a meaty. That was a what is it, a 5-course, a full, I don't know,
Full course meal.
a full course meal. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Help a brother out.
Yeah. Come on now.
But yeah, that was everything. You had your dessert, you had your salad, you had your entree. Come on, that's what I'm talking about, Jay. Shoot, I was about to probably say something terrible. Yeah. But all right, so you know what? So to end pretty much this with, because I want people to really be able to hone in on these last two things that we're about to talk about, because I feel like this will really help people out just universally. Yeah. And so what are some things that can help people build their value? Like, what are some things that help build their value?
Do you want to talk about it?
I would say the first thing, know yourself. Be honest with yourself. I have to know, like, what are my insecurities? Where did this stem from? And sometimes, like in life, I have these flashbacks of like when I was a kid. I'm like, that discouraged me, or that put like a little seed of insecurity. And why did that make me feel? So I'm like, I sit within myself, and I think that's why it's so good to take hold of your singleness, because you need to learn how to sit with yourself and be with yourself and be honest with your feelings. And I would say some of the things that help build my value was being reminded of what was a lie, what was how I saw myself that was a lie, and what's the actual truth. Yeah. The actual truth is what God said about me. And of course you make mistakes and you do different things, but at the end of the day, at your essence of your total being, you are still a daughter, a son of the living God. So
right.
Yeah.
And I think, that's real important what you were talking about, really thinking about what happened in the past, because if you haven't took the time to be truly healed of some of the things that is affecting your behavior now, you're going to take that into your relationships.
Yes.
So if there's an offense that you had in the past, if you don't properly deal with that, when someone displays similar characteristics or anything, you are offended with that person, and it's really not the person, it's the person that you never dealt with the offense.
Yeah.
And that's moving into any relationship, whether friendship or marriage, that's already shaky ground.
Yeah.
So when Jade is saying, like, kind of know yourself, like, okay, I do this, now why do I do this?
Yeah.
Let's get to the why. And I think that's going to really help build healthy relationships, and it helps even with children, because a lot of our stuff, it deals with children. And that's why I'm excited about this podcast, because I believe that if we get good relationships, good marriages, we have, healthy, functioning children that know how to have proper relationships. Yeah. So when you realize that it's beyond me and there's more at stake, there's more, that could be affected, I think that kind of give us the courage to go through that fiery process, to go from copper to gold type thing.
For sure.
Yeah, and what I mean by like what Marty was saying was just saying like sit with yourself. Why do you do certain things? So like for an example, I was to give an example, like say oh, you're not a valuable friend to have because you always got an attitude. Every time people see you, you got an attitude face. And I'm like, well, dang, do I have an attitude face? Like, why do I have an attitude face? Maybe because I'm fearful of what people will say about me. Maybe because like when I was little, they said that you was mean, or she gonna push people away because she got an attitude. Why would I have an attitude? Oh, because my parents got divorced and that made me mad. So sometimes like we don't want to sit with those feelings. But what was the first thing that happened?
Yeah.
Oh, it happened when you
Wow.
were 6, when people looked at you and was talking about the color of your skin and say like, hey, that's why you ugly because this. And I'm like, oh dang. So I'm fearful and I have attitude face to put a barrier because I want to protect myself because I don't know how people are going to engage with me. So that's why I'm not a valuable friend. So sometimes we got to sit with ourselves and take it all the way back, because how Marty said, if we don't deal with our insecurities and where something stem from, we can address, we can say that this person is just like that person who said that about me, when really it's a whole new person. You have to be healed in your past traumas to really know your value.
To build strong relationships now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I want to add to what y'all were saying. I think, some things that can help you build your value is having people around you that see you correctly.
Yes.
That's true. That's good.
Yes.
Man,
That's powerful.
Listen, that has blessed me. I mean, to be honest, the church that I'm a part of, which is Oakland Church, which shout out to Oakland Church, they
Come on,
allow us
shout out.
to
Oh, yeah.
be able to shoot the podcast
Pastor
here,
Dominic
and they
Russo,
just,
yes.
yeah, man, they are amazing. Shout out to y'all. I love you guys, everybody. But to be honest, when I got a part of this community, right, they saw me.
Yeah.
Right, they really saw who I was, the same way that who God created me to be,
through the correct lens.
through the correct lens, and they will speak to that. And the friends that I built here, they spoke to that, right? They encouraged me. So the things that I was doubting about myself, my friends and the community and the leaders that I had, they were consistent, speaking to me, just giving gems here and there. And that made me go back and say, why do I value myself incorrectly?
Yeah.
Why? Because if these people could see this correctly, clear as day, and I don't, I said, man, it's a problem with my sight.
Right.
And so I would definitely say, if you do not have a good community around you, I'm not saying it's impossible, but man, I'm going to say it's going to be very hard for you to actually be able to build your value when you have people that don't even see you correctly.
Yeah.
They're tearing you down by the wrong perspective, the wrong vision of how they see you. They're not encouraged. They're not happy with their life. And so for me, it's really been the community of people that I've been around. That's why I'm able to do this podcast now. I'm able to do a lot of things. It's because really my community. If I didn't have community, this podcast and multiple different things that I'm doing would not be happening. But because of community, I'm able. So I'm going to say one of the biggest things I'm going to say is make sure you have a healthy community of people, and that will definitely help build your value.
I do want to add to that, value and validation.
Yeah.
So we live in a place where, media and the different thoughts would say you don't need anybody, right? You don't need validation, but we all been built for validation. Yes, our worth doesn't come from what other people say, but it is a part of us that needs validation, healthy validation. Because what you said, you have good community that helps build you up. That's the exact same thing. That's the opposite. You have a community that tears you down, whether that's your parents, friends, all that type of stuff. So we have to be honest to say, look, I might say that I don't need validation and all that type of stuff, but as human beings, there's a sense of us that needs some type of validation. Even we try to validate ourselves. But the value understanding that, look, let me be in a place that know that validation is good. If I'm not getting the proper validation, maybe I should change my community, because the trick is to say, I don't need anybody. And this is coming from somebody that's like, man, I could do life alone. And coming to OC, that's the total opposite. We're not meant to do life alone. The saying is, if you want to do something fast, do it alone. If you want to go far, do it, together. I'm kind of like paraphrasing it. Yeah. So I think that we really need to be honest and say, look, I do need validation, because as a father, especially the community we came from, the city, fathers, the voice of a father validating their children was missing. And we was blessed to have our dad really kind of validate us and things like that. So it was certain struggles that we just didn't have. And people think that we're weird. It's not that we're weird. It's just that we had a different level of validation and a voice that encouraged us to do things that they felt was impossible because they didn't have that type of community or validation. And I think knowing that, it helps you to say, all right, I need to take the steps to move towards the proper community so that I could move into healthier relationships and that my value would just increase because I'll be able to see myself the way it is. My value doesn't decrease or increase. I'm able to just see through the lens properly by being fostered in a community that sees me properly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel that's where your full potential comes from.
Oh, yeah.
Within community, like they're gonna stretch you when you need to get stretched.
That's that accountability, yeah.
They're gonna tell you to sit down when you need to sit down. So I think that's amazing. So pretty much the back end of that. So I will want us to talk about really quick. What are some things that will tear down someone's value? Because I do feel like this. Sometimes you could not know what's negatively impacting you.
Yeah, right.
You could just not know, and you have the heart and desire to, grow in your value and your worth and all of that stuff. But it could be something that's just sucking you dry that you don't even know, right? It could be a loved one, someone very close, and it's like you don't know that maybe that individual is that one that's just tearing you down. So could you could y'all talk about what are some things that could tear down your value?
When you say that, the first thought that come to mind is when people say something that's not uplifting or building you up, and we just kind of brush it off. We become numb, right? We become numb to things that is detrimental, like it's not good for our health. And then it becomes a way of life. And then we begin to actually start tearing down other people because that's how we dealt with it. And we want them to respond the same way we dealt with it by just brush it off, get over it. And I think that's something that we have to be honest and say, no, that is unhealthy because we're fostering unhealthy habits and we're putting those expectations on our friends and our spouses. So with that being said, I think that we first have to realize, listen, I might not feel like I was offended because that's the trick. It didn't hit me hard enough. It's the, oh man, it ain't nothing. It's the numbness. But it really do affect you when you start to really sit down and go back and look at your behavior. It's like, whoa, it's the small stuff that I didn't take care of that I thought was nothing that people would tell me, oh, you just tripping, or man, it ain't that big of a deal. No, it will be a big deal. So that's my thoughts when you had said that.
I would say the first thing that came to my mind is my kids and affirmation, because say the girls, I'm correcting them on something, they say I'm just not a good girl. They want to go immediately sometimes into the manipulation and the victimization role. And I'm like, I want to teach them that you are a good girl. So that's the validating them to show your value, you're still a good girl, but not saying that doesn't take away from me keeping you accountable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can get in a victim role and just I'm just not a good girl. I'm just a terrible person and this and that because we want somebody to feel sorry for us. But it's just
we value that.
We can build you up by still correcting you. That shows that I still love you. And so that's just the first thing, just letting them know, affirming them that you are a good girl, but you made a mistake when you did this. And this is what I need you to do. So give them the tools dang, I am a good girl. I just made a mistake and I shouldn't do that anymore because that wasn't really good. That wasn't a good decision I made for myself. And I know I'm better than that because I'm a good girl. So it's stuff like that. So
yeah. I like that. I want to add to this, and this is kind of pretty much wrapping it up. I'll say what can tear down your value is people that don't love you properly. And so what I mean by that is we know that we're going to drop the ball. Mm-hmm. We're imperfect beings. And I think when you have a person that their love changes based on how well you do,
activity.
You feel so you don't feel worthy of that love anymore, right? And I think when you have friends and maybe your parents, maybe cousins, maybe even at school or whatever that it is, whatever that community is, and if you notice that when you drop the ball, right, the way that they love you is standoffish, and they make you feel so horrible, like that make you feel degraded. And I think that you should make sure that y'all are taking a really good, that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to take a really good observation of the people that y'all have around y'all. Because obviously what we were talking about, the people around y'all are either is going to build your value, and that's what you want, right? When people invest money into cryptocurrency, right?
Come
Because
on,
that's
man.
the thing that's popping. When someone invests money into cryptocurrency, they're expecting a great
Return on the
return.
investment. Yeah.
That's what you're expecting on any investment. Like, you're not expecting that I'm about to give this much and I'm about to lose too. Like, that's not the expectation. So I want everyone to start to think about looking at their community and looking at how are people loving you? How are they building you up, or are they tearing you down? And if they're not, I would really want to say it's time for you to start to actively look, right? Actively look for a healthier community. And sometimes it can be a little different,
Very
right?
different.
It's going to be very different because it's something that you're not used to. Like, Jay, can you kind of talk about, look, it's perfect. Like, could you talk about like being in a community that you're not used to, like when it's loving and it's support and it's like, it's a
Yeah.
little different.
Yeah, just making a transition here just at Oakland was just like, I'll never forget, I came into a gathering service and one of the girls, she just came up to me, "Hey, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're here, this and that." I just like, "I'm so glad to meet you," and da-da-da. And I was just like, "What you want from me?" And it's like,
Yeah.
that was the immediate first thought. It's like when you're so used to people just taking,
Yeah.
taking, it's like you don't feel like any new relationship will be genuine.
Yeah.
It's always going to be, what can I get out of you?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can see if it was different. Like, here, I'm giving this, and this is what I'm giving back, and it just, yeah. So I would say that being in a different community of just people and just friends that really love you, it made me have to check a lot of undealt hurt within myself. But then it's just like, it's another place of freedom and liberty of just being who I am, knowing that the depths of who I am a lover, and I'm an all-in person, and I give my heart. I'm okay. I can do that without the fear of knowing that it's gonna get stamped across
Yeah.
the. So yeah.
And also to encourage you that, because I know we're talking about like, hey, look for another community to be plugged in. That is the first step to go through the process. The encouraging part is that you've went through the process, that you can now sometimes go back to your old community and
Yeah.
help foster that change.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't know any other process of what we know,
Yeah.
which may be dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So what encouraged me when I got plugged into a solid community, I was able to bring other people into a solid community,
Yeah.
right? But I can't bring someone out of dysfunction into dysfunction and look and hope on my return on investment that I'm going to get the proper, function. There has to be steps to be the leader to get through and understand the process and the value. And I'm seeing the same thing with my family as I've grown in certain skills and relationships and went through the process where my family wasn't at that level. There was another level of mercy or understanding I had because I understood they haven't been exposed to what I've been exposed to. So if they didn't value me correctly, it was okay because I've been already established with the proper value, how I see myself, and then I can help bring them into that value. And the relationships just naturally kind of either get closer or fall apart. It's kind of unique when you change, like let's say you're facing here, but then you change directions here. For people to see you properly, they have to actually move. So people who have the old mindset trying to look at you when you have changed, it's always going to be incorrect. So you have to be secure to know, hey, look, I've changed my position to move and to grow. And the relationships that I would like to have that may have been older, if they don't take some of the steps to see me properly, you don't see them anymore. And it's not that you're cutting them off or trying to do it on purpose. It's just the tempo and the journey and the direction that you're going, if they don't recalibrate and move and is comfortable staying there, you normally just don't see the people.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Oh man, this show is gonna be a good one for sure. So y'all have definitely blessed us. And first off, let me tell everybody this because a lot of people don't know. My brother Marty, this dude is the guy why the audio sounds so good.
Oh man,
He does all the audio work for us. He usually is on the camera right
we're
now.
just getting warmed up. We're gonna get it better too.
Yeah, we taking it to another level. Right now, we are living very risky because ain't nobody monitoring the camera or nothing. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So
Come on now.
I appreciate this guy. So man, thank you for all the hard work, the knowledge that you bring to make sure that this podcast work. And thank you, Jay, for allowing him to come. Because like I know, man, look, y'all got an amazing household, amazing kids, and having them
Four
away
for
from the 4 for 4 Wendy's, So just thank you also, Jay, for allowing him to be able to help with all of this because it's definitely making great impact. So thank you for that. So I will want to actually plug both of y'all. So Jade, matter of fact, I think that I know you have a heart for helping women learn how to become better mothers. Is it a way that someone can connect with you to probably talk to you about some things, get some advice for that? How can people connect with you?
I would say just write me on Messenger on Facebook or send me a message on Instagram. Just type in my name, Jade Johnson, because I'm in this journey. I'm taking a journey and finding value even in that of staying at home and homeschooling my daughters, doing something nobody in my family has ever done. And it can be risky, it can be scary at times, but when you secure in who you are and knowing that you're called to something, you're gonna take the steps to continue in it because I know the value and the impact I'm having on my children and even within myself. So I would say any moms who want to take a different route as far as investing in their children or even just how to support your husband because it's not easy at all to stay at home and invest in your children, but it's so worth it. So yeah, connect with me. Send me a message on Messenger from Facebook or Instagram.
Perfect. Mr. Marty Johnson, you have a business called Legacy Solutions, which when people always ask me like, yo, what's your brother business? What do it do? And the only thing I can say, I don't know what they don't do. To be honest, like they do pretty much everything. So could you briefly plug your business, maybe highlight some of the new services that y'all have been bringing in that I know you guys lately been doing like TV installs that come out the ceiling or pop out the floor and it's just some crazy stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So we are now a custom solution business where we do integration. We make smart things work together in commercial and residential spaces. So like what Marquise was saying, you would bring us in to design a home theater system. We are the team that you want to think of when you want to make IMAX at home. We're not the people you're thinking about just the mount of television, but you want to actually have the proper display, the proper sound, the proper room acoustics and things like that. That's what we do, as well as in commercial with, surveillance and access control. And one of the biggest things that we've been really liking, we do digital signage. So the Blue Niles and Troy, we did their digital signage there. And also we did in Georgia, the Kroger's in downtown Atlanta, where we did a few of their outdoor, space for TVs and things like that. So if you're in the Atlanta area and you check out the outdoor, speakers and systems, Legacy Solutions, help.
That's what's up. But how can they,
LegacySolutionsMI.com. That's our website. You can click book now for a consultation. One of our trained specialists will help and walk you through and ask some questions to kind of help you get started and see what your vision is. And LinkedIn, Marty Johnson.
Yeah.
Facebook, Marty Johnson.
Cool. All right. Nice. That's dope. I know once I get my house, I'm gonna have them turn my house into Josh AI. What is that? What it's called?
That's another integration.
It's like the super smart thing. It's
with
next
the shades,
level. With the shades, when you walk in the house, you could be like, "I'm home," and then there's a song to come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have them hook me up for sure. Shout out to Lance too. Thank you, Lance, bro.
Yeah.
Thank everybody for tuning in. I really enjoyed enjoyed this episode. I hope that, everyone was able to really take something away from this. I feel like it was so much value in this. My only hope really is that y'all would apply everything too. I think that's one of the biggest things is we listen to a lot of stuff. We may read a lot of stuff, but if we don't apply it, it does us no good. So I want, everyone to start applying certain things, start doing these, observing the community of people that you're around to really get better results out of your life. So thank you once again. You can follow us on Instagram at More Than Just Dating. There we are posting daily content. We're also looking for, if you have any questions, any concern, things that you want to hear us talk about, you can DM us on there and we can be able to start answering those questions. Like I've mentioned last time, we're getting ready to enter into a season where we're going to start also doing some live shows.
Yeah, I look forward to it,
Yeah, so that's going to be really awesome. So I want, everyone to, look out for that, because we can definitely have a lot of the questions on there that we can answer, and y'all can interact with us too. So I think that's going to be something amazing that's going to be, happening in the new year. Also, you can watch this podcast visually on YouTube at It's More Than Just Dating. You can also comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, the post bell notification, just so you can know once we drop it. But we do drop it every Friday, so always just trying to get that weekend kick started. So we like doing that way. And also on all other podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, you can find us at It's More Than Just Dating Podcast. And so, yeah, that's how you can find us, follow us. We appreciate everyone supporting us and tuning in. Thank you once again. It is the Johnson family tuning out. Peace.